I'm Emily Murphy, and I decided to measure the relationship between emotional expression and corresponding physical sensations. So first I'm going to go over the background and the history of research related to the topic. Then I'm going to go over the problem as to what has remained unresolved in the area of study. I'm going to go over the purpose of study. Following, I'll go over my research questions, then the nature of study, in which I will include a brief overview of the research design and proposed methodology to be used. Then I'll go over my hypothesis, related research to what I'm talking about, then the research design and rationale. I wanted to show you guys some media examples, but the internet isn't working, so I guess I'll just skip over that. Following, I'll do data collection and then results. So, for a brief history, the study of emotion has dated as far back to the mid-1800s when Charles Darwin conducted one of the first documented experiments on the subject, studying how people recognize emotion in faces. His theory was that certain emotions, such as anger, happiness, and sadness, are expressed similarly among all people and are distinguishable from each other. According to the evolutionary theory of emotion, our emotions serve as an adaptive role. Emotions motivate us to respond quickly to our environment, and understanding this plays a crucial role in our safety and survival. Part of understanding our emotions includes being able to detect subtle changes in our bodies during emotional expression. For example, if we are in an environment that poses a threat to us, our hearts will start racing and our senses will heighten. Various studies have been exploring this phenomenon, and in this study I sought to determine whether there are specific bodily responses for each emotion and if the conscious mind can perceive these differences. So, in 1983, psychologists Ekman, Levinson, and Friesen examined emotion-specific activity in the autonomic nervous system for 6 basic emotions, which are as follows: surprise, disgust, anger, fear, and happiness. Their study concluded that not only were there autonomic differences between positive and negative emotions, but also between selective negative emotions. So the problem. Before the publication of studies on human emotion, it was believed that emotions preceded a reaction. Following in 1884, psychologists William James and Professor Carl Lange independently published their first theories on human emotion, which were later combined to affirm that emotion was the result of organic changes, both muscular and visceral, in which the expression of emotion consists. Both James and Lange agreed that emotions were the reaction to a stimulus, whether it was a situation or a physiological change. The broad topic of human emotions has been studied for hundreds of years, and yet there are many realms science has not yet explored. Even though we are often consciously aware of our current emotional state, such as anger or happiness, the mechanisms giving rise to these subjective sensations have remained unresolved. So the purpose of my study. If we can consciously detect what physical sensations correspond with our emotions, we may be able to better detect and treat mood disorders. Also, if we can recognize how our bodies react in specific, emotionally stimulating situations, we may be able to consciously pick up on the subtle changes that may indicate a threat in our environment. For example, the fight or flight response. My research questions. So the main question, does emotional expression trigger explicit physical sensory reactions? And my sub-questions, how do sensory changes in the human body affect the way we perceive emotions, and can the awareness of physical responses in our body clue us into the subconscious emotions we may be feeling? Alright, nature of study. This research design was implemented as an experiment that studied the relationship between emotional expression and corresponding physical sensations that occur in the body. Subjects were randomly selected into 5 groups, 20 people in each group, and shown visual stimuli that induced one of the following emotions: anger, fear, sadness, happiness, and love. Then subjects were asked to report sensations that they experienced while expressing the emotion on a topographical body map. That's the map that I had people graph out their sensations in. So my hypothesis was, when shown a series of emotionally stimulating media content, subjects will experience physical responses in the body and be able to map them out on a topographical body map. So related research covering emotional expression. In 2005, Gross and his colleagues investigated the correlation between emotional expression and physical responses. Subjects were asked to watch a film that induced moderate to high feelings of amusement and sadness, while their physiological reactions were measured, such as their blood pressure and heart rate. Results indicated that physiological responses were moderately associated with emotional expression. This supports the idea that there is a correlation between emotions and physiological responses. Jim Giles in 2009 explored the link between emotional expression and physical responses. Volunteers in the experiment were either given an iced coffee or a hot coffee while answering questions about a fictitious character. Subjects with the iced coffee rated the character as less warm and friendly than those with the hot coffee. And this is although all subjects were given the same description of the fictitious character. This study supports a link between psychological and physical warmth and presents the idea that the physical body is involved in emotional processing. So my study was implemented as an experimental design in which there were 5 control groups. 100 subjects were chosen at random by happenstance, and they were placed into 5 separate groups corresponding to the emotion that I would make them feel. So there was fear, anger, sadness, happiness, and love. 20 subjects were shown media stimuli that would induce the emotion of the group they were placed in. So for example, if you were in the happy control group, I would show you a happy video. Subjects were then asked to graph any physical sensations that gave rise during the expression of emotion on a topographical body map. Colors in yellow, orange, and red represented the intensity of activated areas, while the blue color represented the deactivated areas. So after the completion of the topographical body map, I just compiled all of them together to create an average body map, and I did this because I did this by using tracing paper. So I would pile the tracing paper on top so that the more prominent areas were darker, and that's how I would replicate it. For each control group, an average. I already talked about that. And these are the results that I found. So results indicated that during the expression of each of these emotions, there occurred bodily reactions that were very similar. It was shown that there is activity in the chest area in a majority of the subjects in each of the experimented emotions. Although many of the physical reactions were similar in location, the intensity varied with each emotion. There seemed to have been more intense physical responses in anger and fear, while there was less intensity in happiness and love. It cannot be concluded that there were specific responses that signified a unique reaction to each of the 5 studied emotions, and the results supported the hypothesis that there is in fact a relationship between emotional expression and bodily sensations, and the effect is causal. So based on what you see here, with anger there was a lot of activity ranging from the chest up to the face area as it kind of settled down a little bit lower, and there was no activity in the viscera. With fear there was a lot of activity in the chest and the viscera, and it minimized, in the surrounding areas. With sadness, there was mild activity in the chest and the viscera. Happiness, mild activity in the chest area. And with love, it's the same, except it intensified a little bit in the heart area as well. And these are my references.